The day I caught my fiancé cheating, and my revenge was sweet. Before we begin the story, make sure to subscribe to our channel and never miss more incredible stories every day. He raised his glass. I pressed play. That's how the room goes quiet. 50 faces at the rooftop rehearsal dinner, a breeze lifting linen napkins, the city throwing gold across the river. I'm Maya, 28, the spreadsheet and shifts girl who plans life in tidy boxes. Med surg shifts, meal prep on Sundays, budgets color-coded. I've never been a chaos person. Tonight, I'm the calmest person I know, and also the detonator. The stakes are my future apartment lease, my emergency fund, my credibility with both families, and the story people tell about me when I'm not in the room. If I'm wrong, I ruin a good man and nuke my relationships. If I'm right, I stop an expertly curated lie from swallowing years I'll never get back. Alex stands beside the projector with a groom's half-smile that photographs well. To the woman who makes life easy to love, he says, and everyone warms. My thumb hovers over the trackpad. I smell rosemary chicken. I hear silverware clink. I catalog exits like a nurse. Priya is behind the AV cart. Jonah is at the back near the elevator, and my backups sit quietly in a shared drive named Guest List Final. I don't need fireworks. I need truth, on loop, with timestamps. The room holds its breath as my screen brightens. Then the projector chimed, and he finally looked scared. We met at a fundraiser 3 summers ago, when Alex volunteered to shuttle seniors from a community center to the clinic where I was wrangling blood pressure cuffs. He wore rolled sleeves and those earnest eyes that say I'm paying attention to you, just you. He asked questions that made my long-day brain feel seen. What's the hardest part of your shift? Who taught you to be this steady? I believed in him because he believed in service, because he brought my team coffee and spelled everyone's names right, because he remembered my schedule and sent me low-sodium recipes for my post-op patients. Early green flags aged into a sophisticated neutral, flowers after a night float, text that said home safe whenever I closed late. He moved in last September, his art on our walls, my calendar on our fridge. He kissed my forehead and said, "You make the small things feel sacred." If there were cracks, they looked like reflections. When he got a promotion in February, he bought a celebratory bottle and promised we'd keep our feet on the ground. I promised I'd say yes if he asked with sincerity instead of spectacle. He proposed in our kitchen with dishwater on his hands. Everyone clapped online. I didn't hear the first hairline snap until a month later. The first compliment he gave me started to feel practiced. The week the venue asked for our second deposit, Alex's phone learned to sleep face down. It's a small behavior, like a coin turned tails, but coins don't learn secrets. He started taking late calls with West Coast partners, which was normal exactly twice. Afterward, tiny inconsistencies tripped my nursing brain. His gym bag was damp when he said he'd skipped cardio. The rideshare receipts came in pairs on Thursdays. He muted a text thread named bored. I said, "Everything okay?" And he kissed my hair and said, "Just busy, nurse." When I mentioned our registry, he joked, "My team will buy out the knives. They think I'm sharp." Priya, who measures patterns for a living, watched him cancel on a double date with a plausible tone that was one breath too smooth. "Trust or verify," she murmured after he left. Jonah hated him early, which I discounted as sibling bias. Still, Jonah said, "People who love the performance of goodness eventually need an audience." I told myself, stress, promotions, in-laws, wedding math. I told myself, your patients deserve your full oxygen. Don't hyperventilate over nothing. Then I found a stray curl on our couch that wasn't mine, wasn't Priya's, wasn't from the throw blanket, because the blanket sheds gray, not honey blonde. I vacuumed quietly and opened a notes app titled, "If I'm paranoid, delete this later." My finger hovered over the trash icon twice. I asked, soft as saline, "Why is your map's timeline off?" His eyes flashed surprise before the smile settled. "Location's been glitchy all week," he said, pocketing his phone like it was cold. Priya, over Thai takeout, said, "Location glitches aren't selective, patterns are." The next night, his board dinner sent one photo. Low light, leather booths, a caption, "Closing with the sharks." I zoomed in on a mirrored column behind him, the way nurses zoom in on skin tone changes. A woman's hand, familiar ring, rested where his shoulder should have been. I knew that ring from a coworker's Instagram. a PR manager named Elise who did campaigns with Alex's firm. My stomach dropped like an elevator misread. When I asked how the tacos were, he scrolled and said, "Steak, actually," and kissed my cheek, which suddenly felt like a stage cue. Jonah said, "He's gaslighting you friendly," which is a term we invented for people who don't deny, they dilute. If you're wrong, Jonah told me, you'll know by how relieved you feel after checking. I checked slowly. The wrong turn in maps was a 10-minute detour to a hotel valet on March 18th, 7:42 p.m. The receipt in our email was for a restaurant 2 miles away, timestamp 7:50 p.m. Traffic, Alex shrugged, and I nodded, nurse calming a patient breathing too fast, except this time the patient was me. My hands stilled when Priya texted me a screenshot I didn't ask her to pull. The screenshot was a $132.48 charge to Riverlight Hotel Bar on March 18th at 7:46 p.m. Nestled between our utilities autopay and a seamless order he said he placed for my night shift. I stared until the numbers floated, then I called the hotel, pretending to confirm a lost scarf. "We don't hold items longer than 30 days, the concierge said. "You were here that night," I said, my voice a feather. "Sorry," she replied, and I felt the irrational urge to apologize for existing. I didn't confront Alex. I logged receipts. Lyft hashtag A1B9. Pick up 2 blocks from Elise's office. Apple Wallet ping. Room key access. 3 calendar entries labeled with initials that matched no client I could find. I printed nothing. I wrote nothing that could be photographed. I filed everything in an encrypted folder named Registry, Pending. Then, because I am both petty and prudent, I saved vendor contracts to my own drive and paused final payments without canceling, citing timeline review. Alex noticed me breathing differently. "Big day nerves?" he asked, brushing my hair aside. "I keep thinking how lucky I am." I said, "Me too," and felt my own jaw lock. Priya said, "We escalate carefully. We keep the evidence boring." Jonah said, "You're not crazy. You're collecting vitals." I slept with one ear on my heart. The first time I dreamed of pressing play, I woke tasting copper. I made the bed with hospital corners and my emotions with tighter ones. Polite and boring, Priya reminded me. So I scheduled a coffee with our venue to confirm AV capabilities and asked, offhand, about live inputs and day of support for slideshows. I called our bank and removed Alex as an authorized user on my emergency savings, which we'd never merged. I moved my passport from our shared safe to a zipper in my tote. I checked our lease. My name stood first, his second, which is a sentence that can mean freedom. I set a calendar reminder to forward deposits to my own card if we canceled. I told Alex I wanted a smaller rehearsal dinner guest list to keep it intimate, and he kissed my forehead like I'd spared him a chore. We hosted planning nights where he drifted to the balcony for quick calls, and I wiped my device surfaces like a surgeon and took screenshots of every incidental reflection he left in view. Elise posted a story of a city view with a very distinct sculpture. I matched it to the Riverlight's 11th floor bar using their website's photos. I wrote the words, "If denied, press play," on a sticky note, then shredded it, then memorized it. When Alex asked if I'd invite my ex-coworker Damien, who knows Elise, I smiled and said, "Absolutely." And the room seemed to tilt toward inevitability. He poured wine and told me I worry too much. Then his second phone buzzed during a toast I was supposed to remember. Priya arrived with her laptop and a steadiness that felt like oxygen after a long night shift. "We're testing hypotheses," she said, opening a spreadsheet labeled timeline with columns for date, time, location, receipt, witness. Jonah brought deli sandwiches and the gift of suspicion. He speaks fluent pattern. "Prove absence as much as presence," he said, circling March 18th. We mapped anomalies against control days, Rayall client dinners, my night shifts, days he used our car versus rideshares. Priya pulled down my iCloud backups, then cross-referenced metadata. Live photo frames show reflections. Maps raw timestamps don't care about captions. "Don't look for fireworks," she said. "Look for shadows that repeat." We called Damien as a vendor check, and he casually mentioned Elise's new Tuesday tradition at Riverlight. I messaged the hotel's events manager about rehearsal dinner upgrades and learned, incidentally, that the 11th floor bar is closed Mondays and opens late Tuesdays, which fit Alex's West Coast calls perfectly. Jonah built a wall calendar with sticky notes. Yellow for Alex, blue for me, red for unknowns, and the red gathered into predictable constellations. Tuesdays, Thursdays, post-promotion. I recorded a short audio note describing each piece like documenting vitals. Patient presents with inconsistent alibis, positive for mirrored jewelry reflection, elevated secrecy. Priya set up a redundant cloud folder that updates when files change. She labeled it Seating Chart A. If he denies, she said gently, we don't argue, we demo. I closed my eyes and saw the rooftop screen waiting. The pattern sharpened until it stopped being frightening and started feeling diagnostic. Then Priya froze the video on a frame that made Damien whisper a name I hadn't considered. I realized Elise might not be the only one he was seeing. Undeniable proof landed on an ordinary Thursday, the kind that pretends to be harmless with son and errand lists. Alex texted, running late, client dinner, and sent a photo of a steak he definitely didn't eat, because a minute later Priya pinged our shared folder. A screen recording of his public-facing company calendar accidentally pushed to a partner's page, then cached by a site scraper. The event title read, RIV, E-Drinks, description, R+E, no phones. My body went cold and clinical. We followed the calendar breadcrumb to Riverlight's online gallery, where a live cam thumbnail briefly buffered before refreshing. In the reflection of the brass bar rail, two figures leaned too close. Alex in the jacket I dry cleaned, a woman whose profile wasn't Elise's, softer jaw, hair pinned with pearl clips. I forced myself to narrate sensory details to keep from floating away. The bar's amber light, the ice's dull clink, my own pulse in my gums. Jonah, who once pulled me from a panic attack with a bad knock-knock joke, said, we don't explode, we document. I screen captured the buffering frame with the timestamp in the corner and exported metadata. Priya matched the woman's bracelet, 3 pearls, gold clasp, to an Instagram post from the firm's junior consultant, Mariah, tagged last month at a campaign launch. I didn't want to know, I did anyway. That night Alex came home smelling like citrus cologne and a brand new alibi. He kissed my forehead, but he misjudged the angle, like a choreographer who forgot his own staging. Long? I asked. Brutal, he said, kicking off shoes I'd bought on sale. I nodded and poured him water while my hands remembered my plan. He grinned at me right as his second phone lit with Mariah's name. I booked a brief consult with attorney Ruiz under wedding contract questions, arriving with receipts instead of rage. I don't want to break laws, I said, sliding a folder across her desk. Just glass illusions. Ruiz nodded like she had seen 1,000 versions of my composure. No illegal recording in expectation of privacy spaces, she said, tapping a list. No access without consent. Proof must be yours to have. I showed her what I'd collected. Public reflections, cached calendars, my own shared account statements, screenshots of messages sent to me, venue contracts in my name, and deposits on my card. You're fine, she said. Your leverage is narrative clarity and paperwork. She suggested language for vendor notices, neutral, factual, reversible. She underlined a clause in our venue contract. Any slideshow must be provided by the couple or their designee, and day of substitutions require only one signatory if the other is unavailable. If he tries to spin, she added, keep it demonstrable. Don't interpret, present. I asked about removing him from the lease early. She told me the exact letter to write, where to deliver it, and how to document the handoff. When I stood, she said, you're doing surgery, Maya. Precision, not drama. I left steadier than I'd arrived. Priya met me at a co-working space with an AV kit and a labeled USB. Clips are threaded, redundancies live, she said, sliding over a checklist. Jonah texted, Mom wants to know if he likes lemon bars, which is family code for we're standing by. I printed one page, a schedule with timestamps, sources, and a QR code linking to a read-only album. Then I booked the rehearsal dinner AV test under my name. I pressed confirm as Alex messaged me a photo from a client lounge. We chose the rooftop rehearsal dinner for the reveal because he loved that view more than honesty. The guest list skewed toward his audience, partners, mentors, the couple who call him Golden Boy. I trimmed my side to the ones who could hold a line. Priya with the kit, Jonah with a pocketed recorder for ambient sound, Damien, because his memory is a net. I emailed the coordinator. We'll run a short slideshow celebrating our story. Minimal audio, just ambient music. I delivered 2 files labeled Family Photos AB that were exactly what they promised. Camp, graduations, sleepy holidays. Hidden inside the playlist was Family Photos C. Same duration, same opening frame, but with a jump cut in the last minute to timestamps, reflections, and a 12-second clip of Alex and Mariah on the Riverlight elevator, her hand smoothing his tie while he said, clearly, no phones tonight. The clip came from the hotel's public-facing marketing video, which briefly showed elevator interiors during a March lobby feature. Public, archived, lawful. Priya encoded everything onto 2 identical USBs and a cloud link. The venue laptop would play our files via a new folder named Slideshow Final, which we'd already tested. I kept my dress simple and my face unbreakable. When I told Alex we'd added a short gratitude montage for our guests, he lit up, kissed me on the temple, and said, "You think of everything." I thought of exits, statements, and lemon bars. Jonah rehearsed his line in case Alex lunged. "Nobody's laying hands on my sister tonight." I rehearsed mine in case Alex sobbed. "We will speak when lawyers are present." Then the coordinator texted that Elise had RSVP'd last minute with +1. The day ran like a tight shift until it didn't. The florist called about a missing peony crate that wasn't missing. My mother texted advice I didn't ask for. Alex floated around the venue like a charming front-of-house manager. He kept touching my elbow in front of people, a choreography of possession. "Breathe," Priya murmured, checking the HDMI port again. At 5:30, the rooftop bar warmed with chatter and the soft clatter of cutlery. At 5:32, Elise arrived in a dress that glinted like a challenge, Mariah at her side with a smile I used to mistake for kindness. My throat went dry, my plan stayed intact. Alex spotted them, blinked once, then smoothed it into delight. "Everyone's here," he said, and he kissed my cheek for the cameras. Damien whispered, "You good?" A small, anchoring sentence. "Good," I lied. I caught Alex stepping away to answer a message, and my stomach flipped when he ducked into the service corridor where our AV cart waited. Priya followed and emerged with a placid face perfected from years of office politics. "He asked if we needed help," she said lightly. So I asked him to push a chair. At 6, the coordinator asked if we were ready for the slideshow. The sun hung gold like an accomplice. Alex tapped a glass, delivered a pretty speech about gratitude, and then motioned to me to say something sweet. I said, "Thank you for loving us back," and looked straight at Elise holding Mariah's hand. Alex raised his glass, and Priya met my eyes at the laptop. Then the venue laptop flickered like it had chosen a side. Slide A rolled first. Baby teeth, awkward bangs, a picnic where I wore a sweater too big. Laughter, warmth, safe nostalgia. Then, as rehearsed, the screen stuttered like a held breath and jumped. Timestamp overlays, calendar cache, mirrored ring beside a jacketed shoulder, the Riverlight brass rail catching their faces like a confession. The room's oxygen changed. "What is this?" someone whispered, the kind of whisper that travels faster than sound. Alex laughed too loudly, then said, "Some kind of," before the elevator clip cut in. "No phones tonight," his voice crisp as the ice we could all hear. A beat. The QR code appeared with "For concerned parties," sources, and metadata. And Damien, God bless him, said, "Oh." Elise swayed, color leaving her face, and Mariah stepped backward into a chair. Alex turned to me with the earnest eyes that worked on strangers. "Maya," he began, "this is out of context." And Jonas said, calm and clear, "Context is timestamps." A partner from his firm stood, slowly, and asked, "Is that our junior?" Nobody moved. I didn't cry. I said, evenly, "We will not be married. Vendors have been notified. Deposits have been secured." Alex tried the pivot to sympathy. "I'm under stress," he said, and someone actually snorted. "We can talk about this," he said, stepping toward me, and Jonah's hand landed on his shoulder, gentle as in 4, but firm as a tourniquet. "We talk later," I told Alex, with counsel present. His mask slipped. For one frame, he looked exactly like the truth. He opened his mouth just as Elise's boyfriend walked in late. The rooftop dissolved into logistics and law. I had rehearsed this too. I thanked the coordinator, handed her a printed memo titled "Program Change," and authorized the DJ to stop taking requests. Vendors received my templated email, neutral language, confirmation numbers, the clause Ruiz underlined about substitutions requiring one signatory. The caterer boxed entrees with the efficiency of a trauma bay. My mother collected place cards like she could salvage ceremony from paper. Alex's partners huddled tight, phones out, hushed like a church after a dropped hymnal. Elisa's boyfriend stood very still, then walked over to her and said, "Keys, palm up," the kind of small line that ends chapters. Mariah cried into a linen napkin while someone from HR said, "Carefully, we'll talk Monday." I didn't gloat. I signed a receipt, accepted a glass of water, and said to the room at large, "Thank you for coming. Please eat. I'll be leaving now." Jonah shadowed me to the elevator. "Proud of you," he said, which hit harder than I expected. In the lobby, Priya pressed the twin USB into my palm. "For when the narrative shifts," she said. It already had. By midnight, half my phone was either apologies or covert "so proud" messages. The other half was white noise static from people who like their morals abstract. At home, I photographed the apartment before touching a thing. Condition check, timestamped, calm. I set out 2 banker's boxes, mine his. I pulled our lease from its sheet protector and slid a termination notice beneath, dated and signed. Outside, sirens threaded the city like a lullaby for the bruised awake. Then Alex called me from the curb, and I finally answered. I met him outside under the washed-out streetlight, where earnest eyes looked cheaper. "I messed up," he said, voice pitched for bystanders. We can document." I corrected and handed him a printed copy of the move-out plan. 30 days, key exchange with witness, no overnights, no shared accounts, communication via email only. "You're making this transactional," he said, which in a different life might have been romantic. "It was always transactional," I said, and the word landed like a diagnosis. He tried the old choreography, elbow touch, temple kiss, lean in, but found air. "You're cold," he said, which is how warm men describe women who stop absorbing. Jonah stepped out from the doorway. Alex looked smaller. We scheduled the key drop for noon Saturday and left it there. The next morning I texted Priya, "Therapy Rex?" By afternoon I had a sliding scale intake and a list of structured distractions. Swim laps. Cook the lemon bars mom insisted on delivering. Rehang the art he'd centered on himself. I unfollowed mutual friends who wanted gossip, not clarity. I muted the ones unsure how to care without neutrality theater. Work was a relief, a checklist that did not lie. Meds, vitals, chart, discharge. A retired teacher squeezed my hand and said, "You're steady," and I almost cried from the ordinary grace of it. At home, I packed his cufflinks, his cologne, the souvenir bottle from the promotion night lie. I labeled every box and photographed the labels. I walked the long way to see the river, the city shining like a survivor. He wouldn't recognize me now, but that isn't the point. Here's what I learned parsing receipts and heartbeats. You cannot negotiate with someone's appetite for secrecy. You can only refuse to serve it. Suspicion feels like drowning because you're half in 2 realities. Evidence is the air. Collect it calmly. Don't argue interpretations. Present timestamps. Keep your leverage lawful, your contracts, your accounts, your documentation, your backups labeled like seating charts. Tell one person who can hold water and one who can break tension. Bless the Priyas and Jonahs who translate chaos into checklists. If you stage a reveal, choose somewhere the lie loves itself most. Then let the truth turn on the lights. After, expect narratives to mutate. People prefer palatable endings. Let them. Your job is not to persuade spectators. It's to protect your next morning. Recovery looks small at first. A packed lunch, a lap count, a playlist with no shared songs, a plant you keep alive. Ruiz emailed a simple closing line after the key exchange. All parties complied, and it rang like a benediction. Some nights I still wake to the memory of brass rails and buffered frames. I breathe, drink water, write one sensible sentence in a notebook, and the room steadies. I wish I could promise everyone the applause of a rooftop. Most justice is quiet. If you're reading this and your gut is whispering, honor it without burning your life down. Gather, plan, proceed, protect, and leave space for the boring goodness that arrives when spectacle shuts up. Tomorrow, I'll choose quiet dignity again, and watch the sun cooperate.